Hey guys, I'm back. I just had to go ahead and just run through this one again too. So remember our last video, I showed the timpani section, and this time I'm going to talk about these sounds right here. And by themselves. So this is kind of an auxiliary percussion part to help build tension, and it sounds okay. It's, you know, if I were using samples, I'd probably do something a little more convincing, but synthesizing everything, this is kind of what I came up with. So the first sound is I called it World Drum. I should probably turn off all the effects. Okay. Barely audible by itself. And you can see I've got it turned way down. Still got this reverb send. Turn that off. Okay, so you can see in the spectrum, it's a really, really basic sound. I think just a square wave. Very percussive. Yeah, so square wave. And I don't know why this is turned any different. For whatever reason, I have an octave dialed up pretty high on that guy. And again, it's just messing with the attack times and decay of these different envelopes. Make like a trap lead or something. I don't know. But with the attack all the way down, it kind of makes like a woodblock sound. And again, my standard processing, you know, put an EQ on it, take all the low out of it because I don't need any low end layering with a timpani. Got a compressor on this sound. Get the volume up a little bit. Overdrive. Oh yeah, now we're starting to get a lot of nice stuff going on up there. W1. Yep. And then I put a silver verb, which is just a logic reverb on there. Kind of makes it sound like it's in this big orchestral hall. It's kind of cool. I like it. So that's kind of how you get the sound. Now, I kind of just ran through that. But again, my technique's not really any different. You'll see I've got a little bit of limiting going on just to trim the peaks and get the overall sound louder. And then for reverb, you know, you don't want to overdo it. For this sound, it's pretty wet, but in the mix, it sounded good. You know, sound design phase, I probably wouldn't have left it that wet initially. Probably increased the wet ratio, so it's totally dry and about, that's kind of where I had it. I think it sounds cool. And what you can do there is, you guys probably can't see my MIDI keyboard down here, but I literally just like mashed on the keys to create this MIDI part. Just to make like a, you know, like a drum sound kind of thing. It's kind of like, kind of a goofy way to do it, but I literally just kind of like mashed on it. It worked. So it gives you kind of a cool rhythm. And if I play that, yeah, so pretty basic. Smacky drum. I think smacky drum might be the same as this guy. Let me see. I called it something different, but it's essentially that same smacky sound, but I've probably EQ'd it. Maybe I'm driving it a little hard, put a limiter on there, about 3 dB reduction. And this is kind of the counterpart to this guy. To be honest, smacky drum, this preset, I probably just ripped off from the one I already made up here and just tuned it up slightly different. If you want to look at the preset, I'm basically using a pulse. And I've got the unison on just to make it louder type thing. Actually, this says FLS drums. I could believe that maybe there was a preset in here that I modified or something like that over time. Sometimes I do that. If I find a preset that sounds kind of cool, I'll just kind of tweak it till I get to where I want it to be. So that MIDI pattern is pretty basic. Yeah, so it's just yet another percussive element to build interest in the track. And I've got a silver verb on there. It's kind of my classic thing. EQ, compress. So here I'm using the overdrive plugin as my compressor. Again, just driving it into it. So if I start there, it's no drive. I actually kind of like how that sounds. In hindsight, maybe I would have driven it even harder. Oh well. And then this limiter here is just to trim the peaks again, like I said, to kind of the difference in the sound's almost inaudible, which is exactly what I want. I want the limiter to basically preserve some headroom in the sound. So let's see if you can actually tell that. If I reset this guy and I turn the limiter off, it's peaking at like minus 3.8. If I turn the limiter back on, so it's buying me almost a dB of headroom. So what do I mean by that? That sounds really attacky. And by having a little bit of gain reduction on the limiter, I can have the same perceived sound level, but have it have less headroom, overall maximum headroom. And it's just kind of a mixing tool so that I can keep the sound louder without it taking up too much dynamic range in the track, in the mix. And again, I have directional mixer. I looks like here I didn't quite go all the way in. So if we play the sound, that's with the directional mixer on. This is with it off. And that sounds pretty awesome. It's very stereoized. But again, the drums, I kind of want them more in the center. And that's why you see here, I didn't totally monoify it. The spread's set to 30% instead of 0. But I did pull it in quite a bit. And then finally, just again, a little bit of reverb. I sometimes use synths. I sometimes use individual here. This one I didn't want to have as much reverb on it as the orc aux. So I just use a separate one. And then again, all these sounds sum into this orc hits bus, and there's another send here. So that's pretty wet with reverb. And again, that's more of a mix down thing. I probably didn't sound design it that way. Okay, with that kind of got me the foundational percussive elements I wanted to create this orchestral thing. And I think next time I'll just kind of show you how I did the strings. So until next time.